Hey everybody, so this is just a video of me explaining the homework because I had a feeling it would be difficult for a lot of you. So part one on the homework was just to fill in the unit circle. I'm not going through that because I've already created a video of me deriving all of the numbers on the unit circle and we've already talked about it in class. So if you're still confused about that, you need to seek extra help. I am going to start with number 2 on the homework assignment. So let's see. We are trying to find sine of 4 pi over 3. So my first step is to find that angle. It's right here. And then since we're trying to find sine, we're looking at the y coordinate, which I've already filled this answer in. It's negative root 3 over 2. Next one, cosine of 3 pi over 4. So I find I find 3 pi over 4. And then since I'm looking for cosine, in this problem, I'm looking for the x coordinate. So that's negative root 2 over 2. C, it's the same angle, so we're still looking at 3 pi over 4, but this time it's tangent, and tangent is y over x. So it was root 2 over 2 over negative root 2 over 2. So it's a fraction over a fraction. Since the numerator and the denominator are the same, except for the sign, that just simplifies to negative 1. So that's why I have negative 1 here. And then this one I already messed up once, which is why I have paper covering it. Tangent of 11 pi over 6, that's down here. Remember, tangent is y over x. So instead of having a fraction over a fraction, because that's a little bit hard to conceptualize, I'm going to have y. And then again, instead of dividing by x, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of this x coordinate. So I'm going to multiply by 2 over root 3. The 2's cancel, and now I just have negative 1 over root 3, which is technically correct, but I'm going to have us rationalize the denominator for all of these. So I'm going to multiply by root 3 over root 3 to give me a final answer of negative root 3 over 3. Moving on to E, cosecant of 7 pi over 6. So here's 7 pi over 6. And again, we're probably less familiar with cosecant. We're really familiar with sine, cosine, and tangent, but cosecant is new. You need to remember that it's the reciprocal of sine. So if I know what sine of 7 pi over 6 is, all I have to do is take the reciprocal, and then that's going to be cosecant. All right, so here is 7 pi over 6, and sine of that, would be negative 1/2. So if I take the reciprocal, you just get negative 2, and that's your answer. Next, secant, and remember secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So let's find 7 pi over 4 right here. And I'm going to think about what cosine of 7 pi over 4 is, and then I'm just going to take the reciprocal. All right, so cosine, that's x right here. So I'm going to take the reciprocal of that, and you get 2 over root 2. Again, we're going to be rationalizing all of these denominators. So you end up with 2 root 2 over 2, and the 2's cancel. So final answer for that one, root 2. Moving right along, cotangent of 2 pi over 3. So where's 2 pi over 3? Right here. So I'm going to think about what tangent of 2 pi over 3 is, and then it'll just be the reciprocal. So if tangent is y over x, cotangent is going to be x over y. So it's negative 1/2 over root 3 over 2. So it's a fraction over a fraction. Instead, I'm going to do x times the reciprocal of y. And again, these 2's cancel, we're left with negative 1 over root 3. We rationalize the denominator, and you end up with negative root 3 over 3. All right. Cosecant of pi over 6. So here is pi over 6. Can you still see everything? Here's pi over 6. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So if sine of pi over 6 is 1/2, cosecant is going to be 2. Plugging and chugging. Secant of 5 pi over 6. So here's 5 pi over 6. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So cosine would be negative root 3 over 2. So the reciprocal of that is 2 over. And then we're going to rationalize that. That's my final answer there. All right. Sine of negative 5 pi over 3. And again, you might just be able to kind of look at your unit circle and figure out where negative 5 pi over 3 is, because we know that negative angles are measured downward from the x-axis. I always like to, for questions like this, add a full rotation. Right, because if you add a full 2 pi, that's the same as adding 360 degrees. It's going to bring you back to the same location, so we'll be finding a coterminal angle. So that's what I'm going to do. So instead of thinking about this as sine of negative 5 pi over 3, I'm adding 2 pi, which is the same as adding 6 pi over 3. So you end up with just pi over 3. Again, right, that's the same as adding 6 pi over 3 because that reduces to 2. So then you end up with just pi over 3. And pi over 3, yippee, is on my unit circle. So sine of pi over 3, we're taking the y coordinate. So it's root 3 over 2. All right, so sine of pi over 3 is root 3 over 2. That's also my answer to sine of negative 5 pi over 3, right? These are coterminal angles, so they're both the same. Final answer. And that's what I'm going to do for pretty much every negative one. So here, again, in my head, I'm going to add 2 pi. Because, again, if you want to just like think about where negative 5 pi over 4 is on your unit circle, you can. But sometimes that's confusing. So in my head, I'm adding 2 pi, which is the same as adding 8 pi over 4. So that's going to give me cosine of 3 pi over 4. Again, I just added 2 pi because that's 1 full degree. So that's going to give me a coterminal angle. So now I'm looking for 3 pi over 4, and that is right here. So it's cosine, so I'm finding the x coordinate. So it's negative root 2 over 2. So that is my answer up here as well, because those are coterminal angles. Tangent of negative 3 pi over 2. So again, I'm pretty much always for these ones, I'm adding 2 pi. So adding 2 pi is the same as adding 4 pi over 2. So when I do that, you end up with pi over 2. And then I can find that on my table. Pi over 2, that's right here. So tangent of that is 1 divided by 0, which is undefined. So those are both undefined. Can't divide by 0. All right, so these ones, again, you're like 5 pi over 2. What the heck? My unit circle doesn't go up to 5 pi over 2. Like you can't find 5 pi over 2 here. So we know that this angle is more than one full rotation around our unit circle. So you could just kind of like think about where it is. I'm actually going to subtract 2 pi. So I'm subtracting one full rotation from this angle, and that's going to give me a coterminal angle. So instead of finding sine of 5 pi over 2, let's subtract 2 pi. Again, I'm just doing like fraction subtraction in my head. Fraction subtraction. So I'm going to be subtracting 4 pi over 2 because that's the same as subtracting 2 pi. So you end up with pi over 2. So I'm going to find sine of pi over 2. Here's pi over 2. Sine, we're looking at the y-coordinate as 1. So if sine of pi over 2 is 1, sine of 5 pi over 2 is 1. This one, I may have done this one in the video. Again, 14 pi, one rotation is 2 pi. So we're not going to find 14 pi on our unit circle. We're going to have to subtract 2 pi, and we're going to have to subtract 2 pi a bunch of times, right? Subtract it once, you get 12 pi. Subtract again, you get 10 pi, 8 pi, 6 pi, all the way down to cosine of 2 pi. And remember, so sometimes you have to subtract 2 pi or add 2 pi more than once. So cosine of 2 pi, remember this is 2 pi, right? One full rotation around is 2 pi. So we're looking for cosine. So that's the x coordinate. So that's just 1. All right, a couple more of these where you're subtracting 2 pi. So here again, I'm subtracting 2 pi because my unit circle doesn't go up to 17 pi over 6. So subtracting 2 pi is the same as subtracting 12 pi over 6. So cosine of 5 pi over 6. So again, these angles are coterminal. So if I find cosine of 5 pi over 6, it's the same as finding cosine of 17 pi over 6. Hopefully I'm starting to sound repetitive. 5 pi over 6 is right here. And cosine of that is going to be negative root 3 over 2. So that's my answer. So it's also my answer up here. All right. Again, I subtract 2 pi, which is the same as subtracting 8 pi over 4. So that's cosine of 15 pi over 4, and again it's still too big, so I'm going to subtract another 2 pi, so I'm going to subtract another 8 pi over 4, so it's cosine of 7 pi over 4, and then finally we get something that's on our unit circle. So 7 pi over 4, and we're trying to find cosine of that. So it's root 2 over 2. So all of these angles are coterminal angles, right? 7 pi over 4 is coterminal with 15 pi over 4 is coterminal with 23 pi over 4. So they're all the same because they're all coterminal. All right, bottom row. Plugging and chugging our way through. Oh, hey, this is the same thing, except now we're looking at secant. So we've already put in the work there. In fact, we just found cosine of the same... Oh, no, darn it. This is of 4. This is of 3. Okay. So, again, just like I did over here, I'm going to subtract 2 pi until I get something that's on my unit circle. So if you subtract 2 pi, that's the same as subtracting 6 pi over 3. So that's going to be 17 pi over 3, which again, our unit circle doesn't go up to numbers that big, so I'm going to just keep subtracting. So I'm subtracting another 8 6 pi over 3, so secant of 11 pi over 3. Again, still too big, so subtracting one more, 2 pi, and you get secant of, wrote that wrong, that's a 5 pi over 3, which finally is on our unit circle. 5 pi over 3 is right here. And we're trying to find secant of that. Secant is the inverse of cosine. So if cosine is of 5 pi over 3 is 1/2, secant is going to be 2. Whew, I'm exhausted. All right. So all of these have the same secant. They're all equal to 2. So my final answer is 2. Cotangent of pi, oh, this one's easy. Pi is right here. So if tangent is y over x, cotangent is the reciprocal, so it's x over y, so it's -1 over 0, and again, that's undefined. Undefined, okay? Secant of pi over 2, here's pi over 2. Secant is the inverse of cosine, so if cosine is 0, it's just the reciprocal of 0, which is 0. Oop, bumped my camera. So that's 0. And then finally, this is a little bit confusing. This is cosine of -pi. So we're talking about a negative angle. Again, guys, positive pi. So pi in this direction is the same as pi in that direction. Just like 180 degrees is the same as -180 degrees. So we're just finding cosine right here. So that's -1. All right, now let's move on to, well, 3 and 4 were quite difficult. We'll end up going over 3 and 4 in class, but it's important that you understand all of these ones. So if you don't, feel free to email me or just star them in your notes, and I can further my explanations of them in class. All right, see ya, bye.